For what we are about to see next, we must enter quietly into the realm of genius.
Excellent.
Hey, it's the first, the last, the Nerdom. And my name's Tom, and I'm here with Mike.
Yeah. Hey, Tom. Yeah. This what that was one of the we were just covering that on the getting into the show here and gonna get fired up. But I have a few questions. I think I had to stop myself before before we started recording, so I didn't ruin the whole point of the show. Is just have an original conversation on this first conversation
Mm-hmm.
after we both viewed it this week. For and that one, like you were saying, well, Young Frankenstein. But before we do the first last nerdum, as Tom played us in here, we are actually let me pull up the the scene here. Oh, there we go. It takes it an extra minute. Young Frankenstein's. But first, I just wanted to do our usual plugs for our show. 222 subscribers. We thank you very much for joining us and for joining us
Mm-hmm.
along the journey. We're very excited to have you. We're up to 172. Pretty soon, it won't be long before we're up to that 200 number. Maybe we'll have to do something special. Hopefully, we'll have
Mm-hmm.
more followers. But we like as I like to say, we last show was our 2024. Our content here is ever growing. But if you want to be first row, best way to do that is to subscribe and also comment, dislike. That's fine too. If you have counter commentary, we'd love to hear it. Love to hear more. We're starting to get into the new year here, and we went over a bunch of things that we are looking forward to or calling out anyway. Last week, and that there was a little bit of a breather. So sometimes we have to take breaks from different content here, but we're back at it, fresh. Not in the 80s, not in the 60s, not in the 90s, but the 70s with this one. So tell us, walk us into this one, and why. And this week, this is the one you picked, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to. We hadn't done too many comedies, and I thought, well, horror comedies, probably a good place to start. Yeah, no, we hadn't done any Mel Brooks movies, which as a young lad, which I think a lot of people were enamored by Mel Brooks movies. The comedy kind of hits perfect for the younger audience, but it also works well for the young at heart with adults later in life. But yeah, it's one of those that I didn't realize. I thought it had came out in the 80s because I mean that's when I saw it. It was
Oh, right,
74. 74 would have been. I was a little bit too young to be aware of the movie
right.
when it came out. But yeah, I definitely saw it on cable TV during the 80s. It's
Right.
was one of those staples. It's a evidently it was a huge comedy when it came out, and it's that and Blazing Saddles came out
Mm-hmm.
about the same time. Blazing Saddles was filmed first, but before Blazing Saddles and Young Frankenstein, Mel Brooks had experienced a period there where he couldn't he couldn't get anyone to notice him, but then with those two movies, it's firmly cemented him into the pantheon of comedic geniuses. So yeah, it's those two milestones. So I kind of threw those two at Mike to do this week, and Mike said, "Hey, let's do Young Frankenstein." So here we are.
Yeah, I had never seen it prior to this.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
really?
no. I've seen Blazing Saddles a few times over the years, but this one I don't remember seeing ever, but it was I had actually had it on my list from another or at least something to like I've run into before, like where I was like, hey, I'd really like to watch that. And I made a note, but I didn't at the time. So that was an easy
Hmm.
win for me to say yes to this. And man, it also reminded me of how great Gene Wilder is as an actor and
Hmm.
comedian, and how iconic. And when you kind of get used to his rhythm, it reminded me of a lot of him and Richard Pryor And there, I can't think of the name of the movie, but I'll look it up here in a little bit. But it's
Stir Crazy, maybe.
yeah, I might be that one, but oh, this is massive. Here, did it so the we did it for the lols. Had to do that, but Marty Feldman was hilarious in this. Like everybody was. There was not one bad. This is exactly why this is a masterclass in comedy. And I love the peppiness of it. I love the humor. It's from a different time, but it still holds up. I wonder how well. I kind of want to search out a react video from younger, Gen Z folks watching this and seeing how they react to it. I I always love the jokes are always like timeless, edgy. I mean, they're sometimes they're fired at you a mile a minute, or like one every second, or it's a little bit more elaborate as the scene goes on. But there's always like, I'm sure I missed some stuff too, knowing how Mel Brooks operates, and what a talented. He's a great, great man. But
Yeah, and that it's much a love letter to the old 1930s and 40s horror movies. He filmed it, yeah, much like James Well filmed both Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein. He even used like the pacing of a 30s horror movie, without doing all the quick cuts, doing kind of a
Silver Streak. That's what it was.
Silver Streak.
Yeah, that's the movie that I was thinking. Yeah. Sorry. Anyway, random.
But yeah. So yeah, it's filmed much like a horror movie from the 30s, with the static shots and not all the quick quick camera work that was known for at the time. But yeah, and also a lot of the props and machinery were reused from the old Frankenstein movies. They found the guy that had all of that stuff, or who did all the machinery.
The props, yeah.
Yeah, the props, and he had it in storage, so they rented it and gave him credit for it in the movie, which he never got credit for in the old movies. So it was nice to give him a shout out there. But yeah, this movie. I was always kind of enamored with horror. I was always kind of scared to watch horror. So when I was young, I was kind of tantalized by horror, but I was too afraid to actually watch horror movies. So I'd watch horror adjacent things, and this was sort of like the perfect perfect thing to go into. It's like, well, it's not really scary; it's a comedy. So yeah, and it quickly became one of my favorite movies. And I became I don't know if I was really aware of Mel Brooks, but I loved his movies because it's the perfect. I think for a kid, it's enough of that kind of adult humor, but not too adult.
Right.
It's sort of and the stuff that
a lot of innuendo. Yeah,
a lot of innuendo. The
right.
stuff that. The stuff that adults would kind of snicker at, kind of goes over the heads of kids. So it's one of those movies that you can show to a kid and not worry, that they would have a bad influence on them.
Well, age obviously too, like right. So if you play this for like maybe a 5-year-old, you're gonna be fine. You're not gonna be. It's not. You're not risking a very surprising new word, 3 to 4 letter word. That has some interesting arrangements of vowels and consonants that elicit a certain kind of reaction as it goes. Yeah, and that homage to it being black and white too, I think it was a very good choice. It sets the stage for this. You're kind of in that mode. This Frankenstein, he's got his he's the grandson of the one who failed years and years ago, like the original Frankenstein, and he doesn't want anything to do with it. And it's kind of like it just sets the stage of like he actually came at a very interesting concept to tell this story, and it works. Of course.
Yeah, at the heart of it, and I think this is true for most comedies. For them to work, it kind of has to have at the core of it an actual story, a story that you kind of drape your comedy around, and it has it has a good story to it.
Uh,
It's like, it's a guy that's trying to shake off the the infamous name that he wears. In
right,
fact, he
stigma.
yeah, the stigma of his past past generations, and even kind of mangles his name so it doesn't sound like
Right.
the previous. Yeah, I think a lot of people. I talked to someone on the phone at work, who I forget what his name was, but he it could be it could sound a little bit bad, so he kind of twists the pronunciation of it to make it sound totally not like what it's what it reads,
Right.
and that's sort of like, I guess, what he's doing here is that, he's he doesn't want to be a Frankenstein, he wants to be a Frankenstein.
Yeah, and it's funny how he slowly goes, kind of accepts what his,
Yeah.
what he's inherited, I guess is a good way to put it. But I loved how, like, when they got warmed up and it was Gene Wilder. Certainly he steals the show. But he does it in a way like where whether you're playing opposite of Peter Boyle with very little dialogue and just kind of acting, kind of going off cues and maybe the script or whatever.
Hmm.
That is engaging. He's engaging with every other character or person he comes into contact with throughout the movie, which is, and I love how him and Marty Feldman played off each other with, Igor.
Hmm.
Like, just
Well, and
very well done.
and Gene Wilder is just one of those personalities that no matter what he's doing, you get a sense that he's enjoying what he's doing, and you're there for the ride, even though this character, if it's played by another actor, it could come across really bad because this is a bad person. This is not a good person. Nothing he does is good. And yeah, so but since it's Gene Wilder, you're along for the ride. You're happy to be there.
Mhm.
And one of the things, he was doing a play, I think, that Mel Brooks went to, and Mel Brooks was saying that, he when Gene Wilder came backstage, he's like, "Why are they laughing at me? It's not funny." And Mel Brooks goes, they just enjoy who you are, it is funny because they're having a good time with you. And yeah, Gene Wilder is one of my favorite actors. He's just um I fell in love with his acting as a young person. Yeah, there's movies he did with Richard Pryor in this movie, and Willy Wonka. I mean, I do have, if you want to, I'm gonna knock things over, but I do have amigo of Gene Wilder as Willy Wonka here, and they also did some of him as young Frankenstein, but I think I liked the Willy Wonka a little bit better. But yeah,
Right on.
as far as the dolls, but yeah, Gene Wilder's a big one for me. Um, but yeah, he also is the one that came up with the story for Young Frankenstein. He came up and he wrote the story, and I think he said he wrote about four or so scenes, and his his agent was said, I want you and Marty Feldman and Peter Boyle. I think you would be great for a movie. And Gene goes, why those two? Why? He goes, well, they're I represent them as well. So it'd be
Okay.
great if all three of you who are in the movie together. And so he thought, well, young Frankenstein would probably work out good for all three of us. And he went to Mel Brooks because Gene Wilder was filming Blazing Saddles at the time with Mel Brooks, and he approached Mel Brooks about this movie of doing it with him. And Mel Brooks said, "Yes, I would do that with you." And so so Gene had the original idea, and most of the gags in the movie are from Gene, and then Mel Brooks kind of filled it out and made it into a movie, and obviously directed it. But yeah, it's definitely a collaboration between the two. And Mel Gibson, or not Mel Gibson, Mel Brooks, made sure that Gene's name was top as far as the writing credits,
That's
since he
awesome.
did the lion's share of the writing.
Yeah, and that kind of goes to like writer directors and also actors who are actors and who have done all those roles. And of course, I should shame on me for not bringing up if Gene Wilder ever directed. I have no idea, but
I think he did. I think he did. Yeah.
it wouldn't surprise me. Obviously, if he can write a script and he has a vision and an idea and he can approach a fellow creator and make it happen, the famous ones I had seen. Now I had seen various kind of clips or joke sequences,
Yeah.
skits
Yeah. It's
before
definitely in
seeing
the
this.
yeah.
Like I've seen this one.
Right.
I've seen. It's kind of like the old Who's on First. Everybody's seen that. If you're
Hmm.
certain generations have discovered that. But I try to keep that alive with my kiddos, like the Three Stooges. Those are always
Hmm.
timeless classics that are
Right.
always funny, no matter what's
Yeah.
going on. And this is no different.
Hmm.
It's just genius. This was an easy win. And like I said, like everybody, I definitely loved. I'm just laughing. Sorry. Uh, um,
Yeah.
I loved how everything worked out with this and how you can tell there's like a natural chemistry with all these actors. Like every once in a while, and because we do the show, I'm a little bit more open to like movie news and that kind of thing, just in general, like cinema news.
Hmm.
Not too much, but way more than I ever was before. And you'll hear about how, and you never hear it. You hardly ever hear it, like when it's going on. It's very rare, but sometimes, and we've kind of caught this. There are some actors and actresses who just they don't really get along with anybody and there is like
Hmm.
no chemistry between them and the other actors and actresses,
Hmm.
and the scenes, and it doesn't quite work out. It sticks out like a sore thumb. You kind of hear that behind the scenes every once in a while for so and so. I don't even
Hmm.
have one. I'm not calling out one specifically, but you'll hear
Hmm.
them released from the project because there just was no,
Hmm.
just wasn't working. And
Right.
it's just interesting. But this is the total opposite of that. This is like when everything goes right, and then they're good material. There's a push and a pull there. There's a delivery. They're playing off each other. And not every comedian is an actor. That's another thing too.
Hmm.
Just like not every actor is a comedian either. They might be able to do, but like there are just some characters that just can't. You're just never going to see them.
Right.
You're never going to see him do something. I don't know, Daniel Day-Lewis or something like that. I'm not saying he can't do comedy, but I'm just saying certain personalities can carry it off a lot better than others.
Right.
And this is just the way that it was cut, and they just kind of go all the way to the. There's a joke from the very beginning to all the way to the end. It doesn't stop. Like it keeps going, and I
Hmm.
love that. Like it was nice. It was
Right.
nice.
Yeah, yeah, and it knows the balance of being silly and also telling the story, and also the movie shot very very beautifully in black and white.
Yes.
Obviously, the studio would rather them shot it in color because it's easier to sell, and everybody at the time wanted color. But yeah, I think they went to one um, studio to begin with, and they were kind of penny pinching how much that they were willing to spend on it. And Mel Gibson or Mel I don't know why I keep saying Mel Gibson, but Mel Brooks wanted at least he said I can't shoot it for less than 2.3 million, and so they ended up going to Fox because they promised them that money. So
Hmm.
yeah, Brooks was not going to cut any corners for the movie, and
You can
that's
tell.
along with the actors. It's perfectly cast. In fact, they had a lot of fun shooting the movie. The actors on the days they weren't filming would come just to watch.
Hmm.
They said that Peter Boyle would come on his days off to just be on set and enjoy enjoy what's going on there. they would say, "Hey, are you shooting today?" No, no, I'm just here. And in fact, when they were done, I think Brooks said that Teri Garr was like, "Can't we just come up with more scenes to shoot? I don't want to I don't want to quit this movie." And
Yeah, you can
and
tell.
yeah, I think they did come up with a few more, but Mel Brooks is like, "No, it's done, it's done. We gotta end it." And so yeah, obviously they had a lot of fun with the movie. Um, and yeah, it really shows, when people are having a good time on the set, like you said, if there's bad mood, you can kind of tell there's that thing they say, chemistry. The chemistry between all the actors is really good. And shout out to I know we were talking about Marty Feldman, Peter Boyle, Gene Hackman, all great, but the female actors, Teri Garr and Madeline Kahn, are classic too. In fact, Gene offered the role that of Inga to Madeline Kahn, and she's like, "No, I wanted to play the his fiance."
Right.
And Gene was like, "Why would you want to play that? Because it's kind of a throwaway role." And then he said, "But when I saw what she did with the role, I realized it's not a throwaway role at all. She really, a lot of what goes on in that character, it was done improv by Madeline Kahn. Like the whole, I think the whole not touching was, and there's a scene where Frankenstein, young Frankenstein, is going to his great grandfather's castle, and he was leaving his fiance, and she doesn't want him to kiss her, doesn't want him to touch her.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Yep. I know you're talking
yeah.
about.
A lot of that was improvised. Like when he blew her a kiss and she ducks, so that not even the wind of the kiss could touch her.
Right.
That was ad libbed by Madeline Kahn. So. So yeah, a lot of those little nuances were added by the actors, like Marty Feldman as Igor. His hump. He during shooting he was changed the sides of the hump, so that
You would, yeah, it's true.
And then kind of a few scenes, a little bit later, everybody kind of caught on to what he was doing, and they threw that line in where Frankenstein's like, "Wasn't your hump on the other side?" He's like, "What hump?" And, so yeah, there's a lot of ad libs and
natural chemistry
scene.
that they play off each other so well, and that is so rare too for so many actors on the set. Well, I suppose it's maybe it's not rare, but it's uncommon to run into that, like where you have a group of folks and you believe what they're. What you just go with it, and this was
right.
I really enjoyed Feldman's character too. Like I kind of want to watch it again because you can only pick up so much, and I know I probably missed a few jokes even still, but this is just a favorite one, and this also goes back to like what you recommend too, which is physical media is king and doesn't go away. You can't cancel my 4K edition of the Criterion or whatever, or whatever, or special remastered thing. I would love to track down a good 4K. See, this is another thing you've ruined me. I now I have a constant like running list of movies that I want to buy on physical media. And I got to let that kind of list grow a little bit more because but in any case, this is one on the list that just I'm sure there is, but now did you see this streaming or did you already have a copy of this on hand?
Yeah, I have a Blu-ray. It's over there. I meant to grab it, but yeah, it's a nice Blu-ray. Back when Fox was by itself, it wasn't under the banner of Disney because
Disney, what's that?
Yeah, so don't count on a 4K release of this movie. I do have the Blu-ray. The Blu-ray is a really nice edition. It comes with a commentary by Mel Brooks and a lot of extras. So yeah,
amazing.
There's maybe a boutique like Vinegar Syndrome or someone like that might come out with a 4K of it later on if they can, pay for the license to do it. But yeah, right now the best you could do is Blu-ray, and it's a really nice Blu-ray. I think it's I don't know if it's still available, but I know I got it on the cheap back in the day, about 5 years or so ago. So yeah. But yeah, it's and that's where a lot of what I'm talking about I saw in there. There's some great interviews, archival interviews with Gene Wilder and Mel Brooks, Teri Garr, and yeah, just their love of the movie just shows in the interviews from years later. That it shows that it's one of those movies that they love as well. And they said that Mel Brooks and Gene Wilder didn't have too many fights on set or in the writing of it. But there was one one that Gene Wilder remembered quite well. He said he got to a fit of rage because Mel Brooks did not want the scene in where the big musical number, Putting on the Ritz.
Yep, I saw an interview where he was talking about, or people were talking about that scene. I fell in a YouTube hole one time, and anyway, yeah, continue on. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Mel Brooks was like, no, this just totally interrupts what we're doing here. We can't have the scene in it. And Gene Wilder's like, this must be in the scene, must be in the movie. This is, and he was about to explode on Mel Brooks, and then all of a sudden Mel Brooks goes, okay, it's in. And Gene goes, what? Why did you just give in? And he goes, well, I wanted to push you because I couldn't decide whether or not it was brilliant and had to be in the movie, or that was total trash and didn't need to be in the movie. I couldn't decide, and I just wanted to see if you were passionate enough for the scene, and if you were, then it needed to be in the movie.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, it was kind of interesting. And then another scene that Mel Brooks wanted to cut was the "Walk This Way" scene, where Igor is like, "Walk this way." He goes, it's sort of a cheap laugh. It doesn't need to be in the movie, and I think the editors were like, no, it needs to be in the movie, and so they said, okay, well, we have a screening. Let's see how it plays in the screening. And of course, it was in the screening, and everybody died laughing during it. And so after the movie, after the showing, the guys go, "Okay, Mel, do we cut it?" He goes, "Screw you guys, it's in." And, so
right on.
And that famously caused that scene for Aerosmith. Steven Tyler to write the song "Walk This Way" was inspired by that line because they had seen the movie while they were writing their album, and they wrote that song.
I did not know that. That's really cool.
Next time you listen to "Walk This Way," know that Mel Brooks had an influence on them.
Awesome. Yeah, I also noticed like how they did they mirrored a lot of that era's, not just the black and white, but also the choppy cuts, the dramatic zooming in.
Oh yeah,
to to kind of enhance the comedic effect, I guess. That enhance
right.
You're in the 70s, but you have such better technology as far as it goes, like versus back in those days, I'm sure.
Yeah, and a lot of stuff that was shot in or was presented in black and white was, at that time, was shot in color and then just treated black and white, and you could tell it doesn't have the really nice blacks in this, like the scene that you're seeing there,
right? And
that's all have to do with the cinematographer and how they emulsify the film or whatever, or expose it, and and Mel Brooks was like, I want it exaggerated. I want the blacks really black, and like those old movies, but kind of exaggerated. And he really worked with the guys that developed the film to make sure that it was perfect to his standards. And so there was love and care involved in that. And also he wanted to shoot it in black and white film because he didn't want the studio to then trick him and then just release it in color, you know.
Interesting. Yeah, that's funny. That's
Yeah,
funny.
and I think some of the executives wanted them to do like sort of like Wizard of Oz, start it in black and white and then turn it to color, but that wouldn't have played well either. I think they did a perfect job.
No, no, it's good the way the way they did it. It worked, and that's why if you are watching this and not listening, just listening to it, as we roll through that would explain the difference between then the color photos versus the black and white kind of stills from the film
Yeah,
itself.
yeah,
Versus the black, yeah,
yeah.
the Feldman and Wilder's character was awesome. I love their
Hmm.
chemistry. I love
Yeah,
the some of the scenes.
there's a
The
yeah, there's a nice cameo in it by Gene Hackman.
oh
He's
yeah,
barely noticeable. He plays the blind man in it.
okay, okay, I did not catch
Yeah,
that.
there's yeah, that's Gene Hackman. When I was watching the movie, I forgot he
Makes
was in the
sense now.
movie,
Good grief.
and then I was like, I know that
So
actor.
it
I don't
sneaks
know
up on you,
who that
right?
is. And then later on, during the interviews, they mentioned Gene Hackman. Said, "That's oh yeah, that's Gene Hackman." And actually, he was friends with Gene Wilder, and they were I think playing tennis, and Gene Hackman asked him what he was doing, and he said, "Young Frankenstein." And he and Gene Hackman was like, "Can I have a role in that? It could be like a small role. It doesn't matter. I just want to be in a comedy. I think I would be good in a comedy." So yeah, he said, "Well, you could be the blind man," and so he does a really great job in it as the like I said, all the there's no throwaway roles in this
No,
movie. They all work.
yeah, even down to the inspector here,
Hmm.
Kenneth Mars. Although I'm not really familiar with him per se, but he again, there is no bad acting in any of this, in my
Hmm.
opinion. I mean,
Yeah.
nobody, everybody hits their mark. I'll put it that way. And
Yeah.
the mainstays are wonderful, especially the jokes at their other characters' expense,
Hmm.
or kind of semi breaking the kind of the fourth wall a little bit, um, or maybe a wink and a nod, maybe not quite breaking that wall, but like kind of knocking on it a little bit. That's always
Yep.
part of how Mel Brooks comedy type works. At
Yeah.
least in my
And
limited experience with Blazing Saddles too, like that. Madeline Kane was in that as well.
mhm.
Well, we didn't mention
Yeah.
that, but
Yeah, and
Teri
I think
Garr.
this is Teri Garr's first movie. Sort of made her name with this movie, and yeah, her mom actually worked on the movie as well. I think
Oh,
she
okay.
either did the hair or did the costumes. And her mom had mentioned that she was working on a new Mel Brooks movie, and Terry Garr's like, I must be in this movie, and so she auditioned, I think for originally for the Madeline Kahn role, and I said that Madeline Kahn was actually gonna it, gonna play gonna play that role and to come back and audition for Inga if she had a
Hmm.
German accent, if she could do a German accent. And so she came back the next day and did her German accent, and she was cast in the role.
Yeah, and my notes about that, she had learned the German accent from Marlene Dietrich movies. That's what I have. Well, maybe I hope
Yeah,
that's true, but
I
that
saw
sounds
something
right.
about that too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it sounds right. It
yeah.
sounds right.
Hmm.
I wouldn't disagree with it, but but that's what my research has anyway. But Gene Wilder again, like this makes me want to go back and watch a bunch of Gene Wilder movies. And Silver
Hmm.
Streak is the one that I had seen before, which is him and Richard Pryor and their play off each other is also very very good, if not
Yeah.
outright awesome. But yeah, this whole thing works from Zipper Neck
Mhm.
to like little nicknames. That is Gene
Yeah,
Wilder, yeah. And
yeah,
Peter
and
Boyle does a
Peter.
fantastic job too.
Hmm. Yeah, he gives a very childlike innocence to the the creature, the monster. And I can't see anyone else
No,
playing it. I mean,
no.
he has a very tall and imposing stature,
Anyway,
but
yeah.
his childlike personality kind of bleeds through, and he's never never seen as a monster. He seems more of a playful entity, and yeah, and the whole thing. I love the little montage where it's kind of a mirror image of what happens during the Frankenstein movie, the original,
Right.
where he meets the little girl. In the movie, in the original, the girl ends up dead, but in this, she ends up safe into her bed, and and then the blind man is the one that does a lot of damage to Frankenstein with the soup, and
Yeah, and Abby Normal, of course, too.
Abby Normal,
yeah,
yeah.
kind of like probably a ad lib joke that leapt from just them to everyone else, and it stuck, and it made. Yeah, that's right, with the soup, right? Yeah, everything is hilarious in this, in my opinion. I mean, it still holds up. Like I will say you. I mean, if you're. I don't know how people are out there with Mel Brooks movies, but I could easily see like where this would be a favorite, like where if you weren't feeling all that great or you had a kind of a crappy day, you could come home and watch this and be put in a much better mood from the sheer silliness of it. That works. It works all the way down the line.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and the scene where she the fiance comes to visit them, and Marty Feldman kind of attacks her little
her fur
wolf shawl. Yeah, that was ad libbed. Mel Brooks said, "What if you bit her little her furs?" And so they said that scene was the hardest one to film because he would end up with the fur in his mouth, and everybody would end up laughing and breaking. So yeah, it was. I think they said that took the most takes was because of that.
That's funny. Well, yeah, and there's so many like little kind of side things that you can pull from this. From the very end to the very end of the movie. Like how things go, and like little just kind of the characters kind of doing their own thing, and you kind of pick that up, and it's just funny, like where the male or female in this, like it's everybody delivers.
There's little things that you notice out of the corner of your eye that's funny, so it's well worth a second, a third, and a fourth viewing. There's the scene where the monster is out rampaging, or at least they think is rampaging the town, and they're trying to woo him back. So Dr. Frankenstein is playing on the violin, playing the haunting music to try to lure him back, and up on the top of the castle. And Marty Feldman, Igor, is down there, and he has a little horn that he's going to play his part, and he's off to the side. He's getting ready to play it, not quite, and he's like looking at his sheet music and stuff, and he's really adding to the scene, and little comedic little ticks there that you could kind of miss on the first viewing. But yeah, there's definitely little details there that really kind of fills in the movie and makes it well worth seeing.
Yeah, and of course that's all kind of like what different people pick up or what remember. But if this one, you have to see this one at least 2 or 3 or 4 times. Like, definitely be on my short rewatch list for sure.
And you could tell that everybody had a loving touch with the movie. They really wanted it to do well. Everybody wanted to be there.
Everybody showed
even
up.
Like the
right.
Even the props guy, the special effects guys. There's the scene where the monster becomes they're shooting him with lightning and bringing him to life, and there's a scene where they've got there's like a cast of Peter Boyle's head, and there's light coming up from within it, and you see the skeletal teeth and the eyes, and it looks pretty good. And they're talking about how they did it, they had a mold of his face, and you could tell that they there was a lot of know-how and craft involved with it.
Yeah, great care. Well, that was that little girl scene that we were talking about before.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I mean, just the yeah, this is toward the end of the movie too. The reading the paper, kind of, and it's also kind of hilarious, humorous, and like to see this monster kind of just be normal.
Yeah.
Just the
Yeah.
ridiculousness of it, but it works.
Yeah. Yeah, and as far as the end, Gene Wilder said that the original ending that he had envisioned was that Dr. Frankenstein would have been carried off by the angry villagers and possibly killed, and the monster would have went off with his fiancee. So,
Right, right.
so it's sort of the same, but a little bit more happier ending for Dr. Frankenstein.
Absolutely. Yeah, 3 years dead. Yeah, the whole thing works. It's such a great movie. And I'm glad we got the chance to kind of rotate out, and that's the great thing about the genre of film. You can have horror and mashups with comedy, more, whatever if you want to consider this
Right.
more of a comedy than horror, whatever. It's all along the same line.
Yeah,
of,
it's
being
yeah, you
out
don't
there.
you don't think about it, but there's a lot of similarities between comedy and horror in that both have to have there's both of them you could take too far.
True.
There's that little edge there where you got to take it up to the edge of acceptability and
Hmm.
not push it. Don't go over. And also with horror and comedy, there's a lot of to do with timing and pacing and how you have to have some lulls before you bring. You can't have
Hmm.
joke after joke after joke.
No, you have to have pacing,
Yeah,
timing.
yeah,
Right.
pacing, and the same thing with horror. You can't have something scary back to with something scary. You have to have that pacing as well. So there's a lot of similarities, and so to do both horror and comedy together is, I'd imagine, pretty difficult. And some of my favorite stuff is horror comedies because if you get it right, there's something magical about that. And one other thing with the pacing and everything makes me think of the beautiful soundtrack to this movie, the score to it. The music is just wonderful, and it's got that little bit of humor in it as well that just kind of adds to the movie.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah, even the shots of I mean, it is made in that 30s kind of choppy, blocky
Hmm.
kind of style, but it
Hmm.
still works. Like that, you can Mel Brooks has a certain kind of way of framing the scene or kind of showing you, and he uses that to almost as a sub character or a side kind of to enhance the whatever you're looking at and whatever's going on. It enhances that if you kind of step
Hmm.
back from it. And he did the same thing in Blazing Saddles too. Um,
Hmm.
he wasn't afraid to use the whole set in the scene, and he was methodical with what was in focus versus like what was not.
Hmm.
As the movie, as you kind of see this unfold, and you're drawn more into it, from the villagers, going the classic scene, and just like the original Frankenstein, and there were different comedy takeoffs on this. I haven't seen them, but I definitely want to go back and like watch them because some of the research that I was watching and listening to was commenting on Laurel and Hardy. They did their own version. There are these different kind of back and forth of classic retelling the story in a comedic sense. So it wasn't the first, but it definitely was. It stands alone on its own merit for sure. But just like the original Frankenstein, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein kind of gave us that story. This became, an inspiration and creation, aspiration to other, from going from there. Frankenstein
Yep.
is like a classic story that's always kind of redone every kind of almost like
Hmm.
Batman, kind of like it
Hmm.
has that timeless sense with it
Hmm.
as you watch it.
Yeah, and one of the things I didn't think about, but speaking of Mary Shelley and Frankenstein,
Hmm.
in Mel Brooks's interview, he was talking about how it's kind of fascinating that Mary Shelley kind of points out how men have a womb envy. That there's
Mm.
a lot of men have a thing about wanting to create life, that since men can't give birth, they're always trying to find ways of creating life in their own way, and that
AI.
Frankenstein, but that Frankenstein is sort of spotlights that womb envy that people have, and that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
And one other thing, now our fantasy fans out in the audience, they might know Tim Hildebrandt and Greg Hildebrandt, which are twin brothers that do beautiful fantasy illustrations. They do a lot. They've done a lot of book covers and whatnot. And famously, one of the ones that stand out for me is personally they did the cover for the Sword of Shannara, which is one of my favorite books, but from my youth. But they are they wanted to get into painting movie posters, and Mel Brooks was the guy that gave them the chance to do the movie poster for Young Frankenstein. 20th Century Fox did pass on their version of it, but that kind of gave them a step in the door, and they later did one of the posters for the original Star Wars. So that's sort of a shout out. Mel Brooks has always been very kind with different creators, and he would see the creative genius that they have. In fact, Mel Brooks was the guy that got David Lynch to direct Elephant Man. He gave David Lynch his step into the door of mainstream cinema.
Really?
After seeing Eraserhead, he gave him the directorial debut for Elephant Man. He I think famously Mel Brooks saw the screening a screening of Eraserhead, and he came out and gave David Lynch a big hug and said, "Yeah, you're crazy, man, but you're a genius."
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, well, and there's a whole we are no strangers to being fans to super fans of our favorite directors, for sure. That's another aspect that I love our podcast and show as we go forward and evolve. You can't help but pick up these wonderful and of course according to your own taste too. But I was also going to say, speaking of bringing the dead to life, Mel Brooks' son Max Brooks wrote probably in my opinion probably the best zombie story or zombie story that has ever been created, in my opinion, which is World War Z. I should say modern, like kind of set in modern day with modern armies and that kind of thing. He wrote the World War Z, which was the movie was completely different from the book. The movie went in its own way, whatever. But if you ever get a chance to listen to that book on tape or audiobook or even read it, you will not be, and you want to get the unabridged version regardless to get the full effect. And he also did a follow-up to that, or precursor to it, called the Zombie Survival Guide, something like that. But it's basically built in that world, and it's the story is kind of written as like a documentary type style. Like after it happened, it kind of goes back and tells you and narrates you how that world is, and the world building is perfect. Anyway, it just kind of mentioned that on the side as like a fun little kind of thing to get into in different media. And of course, Mel Brooks, his body of work is legendary. It stands on its own. It makes me want to go watch a bunch of his movies too. And also Corey Feldman too. Why not? That's what, and that's, I think that's, I was talking to my dad the other day about, kind of appreciating these older movies. And I love it. Like, I love that we have, we are the beneficiaries of all this great artwork, and it's just a download away or a rental or checkout away, whatever it is, or order the physical media too, if you really love it. Definitely never going to go out of style, and I hope that we never have to worry about physical media going the way of the dodo. Anyway, but who knows who knows what they'll try to do. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. It was a good call. you know, it it works.
Yeah, it's definitely one that's near and dear to my heart. Like I said, I fell in love with it as a kid, and it's one of those things. When you're a kid, there's a lot of things that you love, and then later in life, you go back and revisit it, and you realize some of it's kind of trash. It worked for you as a child, but as an adult, the shine kind of wears off. Whereas this movie is one of those classics that luckily when you revisit it, it's still a masterpiece and still great, and you can appreciate it in a different way, but also in the same way that you did as a child. It has that charm and wonder that a kid can enjoy, and then the kid and the adult can as well.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's definitely a gem, and I can see why it was such a huge movie at the time. And one of the things they said, I think Mel Brooks said that, or maybe Gene said that when when it premiered and people were watching the movie, they reacted to it like it was already a classic. People would
Wow.
applaud when different people would come on the stage, into the movie for the first time. It was like everybody kind of anticipated how wonderful the movie was going to be. I guess there's some movies kind of have that energy to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and this movie definitely has that.
Yeah, every scene goes into the next, and it just gets better and better as you and then pretty soon you're kind of done, and it's like the end. And,
Yeah. Much like Teri Garr, he's like, there's got to be more to this movie. You got
right,
to add,
right.
and just to point out, and maybe give a little bit more money into Disney's pocket. If you get the Blu-ray to this movie, there are deleted scenes. So if you want a little bit more, the movie actually, when it was finished, the first cut of the movie was twice as long as the movie that we see now. So there's about 25 minutes of extra scenes.
Okay.
Now there's variations of scenes, so it's not quite 25 minutes of brand new material, but or new to you. And then there's like 5 minutes of outtakes as well. So those of you that like deleted scenes, they're on the Blu-ray as well.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah, I did see bloopers and outtakes. At least somebody put that on YouTube. And I didn't get a chance to watch that, but I definitely will be following up for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, there's the scene that you were talking about before too.
yeah, his little horn. But yeah, there's also I'll say this. I didn't run this past by Mike, but I think he'll agree. When we get 100,000 subscribers, me and Mike will reenact the scene of putting on the Ritz. Mike will be Frankenstein, and I'll be the monster, and we'll be in suit and tails, and we'll reenact the scene for 100,000 subscribers.
I will absolutely have to practice that because I'm not going to phone that one in. I can't do that to Gene Wilder or Mel Brooks, the comedic geniuses, the giants that they were. And they are still to this day. It again never gets old, but this one, go see it. This is an easy win. If you don't want to think about it, you put this one on, especially if you're younger generation, or you're even older like me, like where you didn't see it yet. I don't know. But and that is like required viewing should also be Blazing Saddles. Not even thinking about it either, because it's just a classic.
Yeah, and this one again is a good for kids too if you have younger kids, and it's safe to throw it on with them. They'll find some things to laugh about on this.
Yeah, Blazing Saddles, you might want to
right,
a little bit more of a filter than that, but there's a lot of innuendo that will go over their head, just like famous Bugs Bunny cartoons kind of went over kids' heads too. Occasionally they would do that. They've always done that. Ren and Stimpy, they did it. 90s. It's always been done. But you can't go wrong with this one, and it's great. Like, I don't know. I think we're kind of reaching the end of the caboose here. But did we miss anything that you wanted to cover or highlight or kind of go into?
I read this right before we started filming, and I don't know how true this is, but evidently, I guess they on the movie poster on the original. They had like on the mountain that the castle's on. They had like a little McDonald's with the golden arches
Really?
on the mountain, and they didn't evidently they didn't run it past them
Corporate.
to see if that was okay. So they actually had to remove the golden arches.
That's a
They
shame.
had to destroy a lot of the merchandising because of that.
Interesting. That really sucks. That's funny. Too bad they. Missed opportunity.
Yeah.
I don't think it would have altered the movie significantly, but it would have been a nice little kind of Easter egg fun fact, I suppose.
Yeah.
Just like it is now, but it's only one little datum of thing to remember or to watch out for. This Just Watch that we like to use, like where it's at, where you can buy it, where you can watch it, where you can rent it. I just wish if I would have one criticism of Just Watch, it would be really cool. I think it's a missed opportunity, just like we're talking. Like if there's a physical version of it, I think that would be cool to add to their kind of, because you're already here and maybe you want to catch it. Because if you follow these links out, you can actually buy it. Most of the time it'll take you to the
right
to the version of it. Sometimes, although it is hit or miss, sometimes it doesn't quite have everything out there. And I think it's more accurate for more modern content. It kind of falls on its face. When it comes to like the older kind of stuff that we tend to kind of push the envelope a little bit for it, I guess.
And it's
just missed opportunity.
Especially whenever you go to that and you're looking for a movie and it's not available streaming anywhere, and
right.
then it's available on Blu-ray somewhere. It's nice to be able to have a link to get it. Because, like I said, with Amazon, even though it's available on Blu-ray, a lot of times it kind of gets buried with their own search engine.
Well, yeah, and they're also trying to push you to the digital version, like which we've covered before,
Absolutely.
and which is another gripe that we both had with them over time. And I would say I was gonna make I think I was gonna put on my personal YouTube channel because I don't think it's of interest to our audience that kind of shows up for our stuff. But
I just did a search on Amazon for the Blu-ray. Could not find it by just putting in Young Frankenstein or Young Frankenstein Blu-ray. I did a search on just the Braves search engine, found the link for the Blu-ray for Amazon and clicked that and found it. It's crazy, but they still do have the Blu-ray I picked up for $10 on their site. So and I just wanted to confirm there is no 4K. You can get a VHS copy for $3. but yeah, a nice new Blu-ray for $10.
That's awesome.
And, it's well worth getting.
And if there is, to the audience out there, a little bonus points extra. Hey, if you know of a website or a service like Just Watch that has physical media, I know I've kind of ran into them over the years, like here and there, hit or miss. I haven't really. I probably need to find that one a little bit better than what I have now. But if you know of one, and I'm sure I'm gonna, after we get off here, I'm gonna look for that because that's something that is a good resource to have. But of course we throw out where you can kind of go to a boutique shop that has care and where you can find these one of many different movies that are physically being produced, and even down to the artwork that they send you in that vein. But I go see this one. You won't be disappointed. Young Frankenstein, Mel Gibson. Excuse me. See, now I'm doing it. Mel Brooks, 1974. You won't be disappointed. It is always a fun to go back and revisit that. But before we go, I just want to kind of do a little bit of a shout out to I guess there it is. We're on Twitter. Thomas runs our Twitter division, our X division. And shout out to him out there if you want to give him a follow. But in any case, and also of course our home base series on YouTube. I'm still trying to get the website knocked out, but work has been really busy this week. as we're actually in the heart of the year, or getting into the good start of the year. It's picking up for me. I don't know about you, but my spare time has been less and less. So I need to get on that sooner or later. But in any case, and get this link working, getting our website working. But anyway, hey, big shout out. We want to thank everyone who showed up to watch our live view. That is our de facto 1.5K views. We really appreciate that. And we're going to have more of those with our special guest, Jay, as time goes on. We got one here in the next few weeks to look forward to for something that we'll all kind of experience, and it'll be very interesting. Just like the landscape, just like Westerns were a thing, we go through these cycles depending upon when you were born. It was the juveniles in the 50s, science fiction novels. If you were in that world, that would have been very cool to be a part of when you're growing up. All the way out to, Marvel movies is our era, our superhero cape, type, both coming and going, whether it's making fun of it in The Boys, or being very satirical and heavy-handed, kind of like a RoboCop, who was the guy who did that one, that and Starship Troopers. He kind of Peter Weller was anyway, it didn't matter.
Paul Verhoeven.
Yeah, Paul Verhoeven kind of types, kind of very sharp critical commentary, which is kind of meant to be one thing, but the audience completely takes it as their own their own interpretation, which is funny. But that just goes to show, like, if you're a visionary like Mel Brooks, you're going to find it. But we if you stumbled upon us and you've watched us for the first time, we thank you. If you made it this far, awesome. Great. We look forward to hearing from you and seeing from you in the future. And I think that's about it.
Yep. If you made it this far, you might in fact like us. So you give us a like and subscribe, and we'll keep bringing the content to you.
Yeah, and you're gonna have to slide me over that quote in the chat here while I delay while I play us out before I go out. If you don't mind being a pal, but I was gonna say next week we're gonna be revisiting Jell-O. If you want to stay tuned for that, Blood and Black Lace, 1960s. I want to say 64, but I think it was like 63. But I always screw that up for some reason in the thing. But stay tuned for that. And we also have I'll be releasing our extra with Jay and on Wednesday this coming week. I was supposed to do it last week Wednesday, but I got busy anyway. I get better as time goes on. But I was just gonna say, I guess I can bring us in our chat view here while we filibuster toward the end of the show. But tell us what your favorite Mel Brooks movie is. Is it Blazing Saddles? Is it this one? Is it another one? Have you seen Silver Streak? What's your favorite Gene Wilder movie? And there's different ones that go off from that. But in any case, 1 second here. I've got.
I was we're gonna do Blood and Black Lace next week, but the Arrow did a wonderful Blu-ray of it, and I was gonna get that, but it's sold out. So that's another thing about physical media. When they do come out with a wonderful edition of a movie that you want to see, definitely pick it up, especially from a boutique store, because they only produce limited numbers of them. And once they're gone, if it's popular enough and they think they'll sell more of them, they'll do a reprinting, but that's not always the case. So whenever you see that movie come out that you love, go ahead and snatch it up, because otherwise you might be paying buku bucks on eBay if you want to track it down. So, but Blood and Black Lace is on streaming. I think it's on Tubi. So we'll probably give a shout out to them when we watch it.
Absolutely. And with that, I've been Mike.
I'm Tom.
Wait, where are you going? I was going to make an espresso. Get out of here. The first, the last Nerdom, scaring up laughs. Young Frankenstein, 1974.